We played a really good football team that was coming off of 16-day break that was very excited to play. I noticed that when they came out for warm-ups. And, you know, those 16-day breaks are tough. Sometimes you get a team that's going to sleepwalk. Sometimes you're getting a team that's excited. I think the fact that Temple's playing, you know, has played some pretty good football lately, I think that got them excited. They had a lot of respect coming in, and they played really well. It was a little bit of a mismatch in terms of, like, you know, some areas that we were kind of banged up at, and, you know, how they attacked us. You know, they did a great job getting the ball in the perimeter, a great job throwing the ball downfield. And when you look at it, we had, you know, 5 guys that were in gray jerseys most of the week that, you know, missed some practice time. And then there was 9 players during the game that we lost either going into the game or during the game. Starting 2 safeties, I think we lost in the first series. We had 1 starting corner down. We lost a second starting corner for a period of time. And so I think that really, you know, affected us. You know, in terms of preparation, I'm gonna call bullshit. This team prepared really well. I thought it was a really good week of preparation. Kids were locked in, kids were focused. We played a really good team, and we're coming off of 2 straight road trips, overtime game, and defensively we're a mash unit. Again, I don't know a whole lot of people lose their starting 2 safeties in the first series and then lose their starting corner, and the other starting corner is already out for the game. So a lot of moving parts. I thought, you know, big play in the game. I thought it was really great that our kids 14 points down, you know, came back and fought their way back. Gave them too many explosives. I think that's a lot of what's going on in defense in terms of the number of people that were rolling in. I thought huge play in the game when we had 12 guys on the field. And, you know, to understand that, you know, we had a backup corner who was on special teams. Because he's now starting, because we're down to starting corners, we took him off special teams. Because again, he was getting a lot of play out there, and we didn't want to, you know, completely run him into the ground. And he went out. And so it was his fault. But also I have 3 guys on special teams. That's all they do is making sure we have 11 guys out there. And it was their fault. And then, you know, as I told the team today, I am like a lunatic when it comes to having 11 guys on the field. I am like a crazy person, especially with punt return and field goal block. And I always tell our guys, I can live with 10, prefer 11, 12 is gonna get us fired. And that was just embarrassing that we had 12 guys in the field. Guy in the box counted 10, but we had 2 returners back there. Because he's always counting the front, and then we had 2 returners. And so that penalty was huge. And then, you know, I broke a cardinal rule of my own, like play the next play. And instead, I'm back worrying about what's going on with how we could possibly not have 11 guys in the field. And, you know, I know I told the guys look for a fake when they went out, but the move was to have our defense out there. And that was such a huge play because we're down 14, get the ball in good field position, get down 7. And so my conversation with the players was, I said, that's how I coach. Like, I have no problem taking responsibility. At the same time, I expect them to take responsibility. And when you lose, you know, you can't be like, we should have. It should be like, I mean, you should have. It should have been, we should have. And I think we had a good talk about understanding how to lead as players. Because when you as a player start saying, hey, you know, we have to be, you know, you have to be tougher. No, it has to be, we have to be tougher. You know, we have to be more physical. We have to. And so I think there's a lesson learned in terms of like our leadership style on the sideline during the games. I think the kids panicked a little bit. And that's the first time I've seen that in a while. I think partly because they felt pretty good about themselves. And then obviously, you know, they were getting after us pretty good up front. And, you know, I think we're all a little embarrassed after the game was over that that was the performance we put on. But nothing to do with preparation, nothing to do with effort. It was, we played a really good team that's very fresh, and we are just really banged up on the defensive side right now. And again, you know, all those moving parts affected our special teams too. So anyway, excited about West Point. You know, got a chance to play against Coach when he was at Georgia Southern. Terrific football coach. He's done a phenomenal job up there. I've had some of my guys work for him. You know, they do such a phenomenal job coaching. You know, this is, the good news is we've had Navy to get some of our stuff in. Not the same offense. I mean, a lot of personnel stuff might be and some of the general philosophy, but they do a lot of different things, and we have to prepare a little bit differently for them than we did Navy, but at least some of the base stuff is in right now. We're not starting, fresh in terms of terminology and how to line up and those kind of things. So, that's a real benefit for us going into this game. But it's the same thing. It's trying to get bowl eligible, and that's something we've talked about since the day I got here. And we're going to try to go and ruin our third straight homecoming because this is the third straight one on the road for us, and it's going to be a great challenge for us. So, questions?
I wonder if the sort of tape, what it sort of showed maybe from ECU, just sort of between the tackles on both sides of the line.
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, with that extra time, you get to throw a couple tweaks in there, which they did a good job with that. They are really physical up front, and I think we felt that it would be a long day just us trying to drop back 40 times and throw the football. And so I between the tackles, I think that O-line was very physical. I think the D-line was really physical. I think that was, kind of part of the big difference of teams we've played so far. I think that team was really like one of the better teams on both sides of the ball, offensive line, defensive line. I think the quarterback played really well. Again, we felt a little bit of a mismatch. Going into the game, I would say mismatch. It's not the matchup that we wanted. We didn't want to have an up-tempo team that was going to spread us out and throw the ball when you have one starting corner down, the other corner goes down, and then you lose two safeties. So again, I think we're all disappointed, but I think we lost to a really good team that played really well. It was really fresh, and we have to bounce back. We talked about this before. You can't let Navy beat you twice. You can't let East Carolina beat you twice. And I said my first comments in the team room when I had our team meeting this morning was, what a difference a week makes. Last week we're celebrating an overtime victory on the road, conference opponent, homecoming. Now, you feel like we got embarrassed a little bit because there's a lot of pride right now with this team. And so I said, but we're full-grown ass men. We got to flush it. We got to move on. And I thought they did a good job out there today. And again, I think they have the defense has really worked really hard at being locked in and working at practicing better. Compared to where we were early in the season. I think they're just so disappointed we haven't had the results. And again, I think a lot of that's just manpower, just the fact that we have that many guys down or missing portions of practice. Like I said, 4 in the secondary. There was at least 2 D linemen. Sekou was, not really 100%. He got a couple snaps. That shoulder keeps on bothering him. I think it's one of those things where we might shut him down this week and see if we can get him back for the last 2 weeks. Plus because we have a bye coming up also. So, yeah, again, I think when you look at them, they're one of the better teams in this league. And up front, O-line, D-lines, they match up with everybody.
I know it's only Monday, but how are you doing health-wise, especially with defensive guys?
Yeah, we're going to find out on Castleberry today. Hopefully that he'll be able to go out and we think we're going to get good news. All indications are we're going to get good news. And then he'll be able to run, and then we'll have he and Ben came back and played, and so we'll have both the corners back. At the safety spot, I think it's going to be wait and see. Now Javier finally kind of gets back more like 100%. That ankle's been it took a little longer than we thought it was going to, but he moved around and actually played out there, and I think he's a good matchup for playing an academy because. He's a really good tackler and he's physical. So, I think, that limits some of the problems in the back end, trying to get him back, and same thing with Lou Fry. Lou now all of a sudden, because he had the cast on and doing all that stuff, now Lou might be able to get a bigger role. So those guys were sort of, had to play by emergency, consent out there. They had to sign a waiver because, they both still weren't 100%. But I feel better that they'll be closer to 100% going against West Point, and that will give us 2 big physical kids that you hope will match up with these guys. So we will see. I think it's a wait and see how we're going to get the safety spot.
You had Ty Davis out there at safety too today?
Well, just the position he plays is like a hybrid, and so he'll play out in space sometimes. But yeah, Ty's a guy that what we're going to see, he'll be a guy who could be almost like a down safety. Yeah.
fighting up by your spot.
Yeah, like he could be a guy that plays down. Again, we're still looking at what they do versus what Navy does, and again, there are definitely some things that they do differently. But again, they're gonna run the ball at you. And then when your eyes aren't where they should be, because you're just constantly getting pounded, then they're gonna get behind you. So, they're a good football team that's gonna be very excited to have, homecoming up there.
They also, I think they lead the country in time of possession.
Yeah.
I remember at Tulsa, you were talking about, we want to be aggressive offensively, right? But and that's when you're best. You got to weigh that against trying to possess the ball offensively in this
and
measure.
even to go back to last game, like, talking to Tyler, he was like, we're trying to keep our defense off the field some, because what we've been really good at are those long drives, those drives that were converting those third downs, those consistent drives, keeping our defense off the field, and we weren't able to do that, this past week. We tried pushing the run game. At times we got it going. Again, I thought they were going to do a really good job, and Tyler felt this way. They did a really good job of saying, hey, 17's not going to beat us, and 11's not going to beat us. Like, we're going to, make sure that we, roll coverages their way, double them up sometimes, those kind of things. But we just didn't feel that we were going to be in a position that we could drop back 40 times and throw the football, because, again, up front they're really good. And so I think going into this game, it's the same mindset. Like, we're at our best when we're aggressive offensively, but also when we get those drives where we can keep our own defense off the field. Because it's brutal. They have an 11-minute drive or 8-minute drive or whatever, and you're 3 and out, and then you put your defense back out there. That's that's really how they, become a most effective Army, most effective Navy. When they can get those drives and they can get those 3 and outs. Navy game, we did a good job keeping Navy off the field, and that's kind of what we have to do this week, against Army. If we can get some of those drives and sustain them and keep Army off the field, it'd definitely be a benefit for us.
What about what they're doing defensively? What does it look like to show you?
Yeah, I mean, they're giving you some 3-man line, 4-man line. They're longer than you'd think they would be. Pretty aggressive. I think they played some, really good defense. So I think, maybe a little bit like Navy was. Not that I don't think they're the same animal in terms of what we just saw, because I think the guys up front that we played this past week might be as good as anyone we played, this season. I thought that was the strength of their team. I really like West Point's defense, but it's, complete defense. They do a lot of things, and they're really bright kids. They'll give you a lot of movement. It's like one of those things where they move enough that they drive you crazy, but they're really efficient at doing it too. It's not like they do 50 things and they're not good at it. Like, the things that they do, they're really good at.
Is there any difference between the 2 quarterbacks who have played? The guy who Kellums is playing a lot now.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he played both for a reason. I think they're both good football players. I don't know statistically if there's any difference, but like when you kind of watch the stuff they run, it all kind of blends together. It's not like, oh, hey, this guy's in to do this and this guy's in to do that. I think it's pretty much, maybe a hot hand, a great week of practice, those kind of things.
On the injury front, you're probably not even aware. Your player availability report every week looks dramatically different than every other player availability report.
Yeah, no, and I'm very much like, tell me what the rules are we're going to play by. And so, like, a great example is, our kicker going into the Navy game. He missed Friday, and we thought he had a concussion. He was going through all the protocols. And so we put him on there, because, like, we didn't want to have a situation where now he's not playing. And it was like, well, wait a minute, he's not playing, wasn't even on the list. So, like, I told our guys, like, listen, we're not going to play any games here. Let's play by the rules. If we have guys who miss time, they need to be on the list. And so if they miss time, they're on the list. That's kind of how I operate. I'm not a, like, don't let them know that Johnny's in. Nah, really. Like, how much does that really change the course of a game? Rules are the rules, It's just like, us faking injuries. I will have nothing to do with that. You know, they put some verbiage in there this year in terms of making sure that, you know, guys, you know, aren't faking injuries. And I think they've done a pretty good job. I think it's helped the game a lot. And I told our guys, we're not playing that game. Like, that's not who we'll be. So I think once you start to bend to those kind of things, then you just lose all the integrity of your program. And I just refuse to do that.
Yeah, there's some conversation now that conference offices, though, are not, you know, penalizing coaches in schools that are.
Yeah, I saw a press conference of a coach that mentioned, I think 5 players that didn't play, and none of them were on their list, not in this conference, in another conference. So, like, wait a minute, these 5 didn't play, but you didn't have them on their might not be available list? How does that happen? So, again, I think it's brand new. I think we're all trying to, you know, work our way through it. I just told our guys, we're not gonna play games here, just be honest.
How is that?
I have enough going on in my life to worry about what did we say about who can play, so, I don't know.
How has Evan responded the last couple of days? Because I think he said on Saturday, I asked him, is this the first time, you know, this is the first team that you felt like you should have beaten, and they kind of just like beat you up and gave it to you? You mentioned that it looked like they had enough time to prepare, they were jumping routes. How did he prepare, how did he kind of digest everything in the last 48 hours or so?
Yeah, so I knew going in, it was not a great matchup for us because how banged up we were in the back end. And then we lost 2 safeties on top of that, and we lost Ben on top of that for a period of time, and Ben came back in. So we knew going in that, you know, there's certain parts of this game that, you know, we're gonna have to play really well. And they're gonna have to, you know, not have their best day. Because I think if you just look at the talent in this league, they're one of the more talented teams in this league. I think UTSA is probably an equal. You know, we were able to beat UTSA. It's, some teams match up, some teams don't. It's just, I thought with how banged up we were in the back end, that playing an up-tempo team that could really wing it outside, you know, that was really gonna hurt you. And then, you know, early in the game, you know, losing the 2 safeties, you know, they hit a big one up the sideline on us, and you know, our safety had gone down. And unfortunately, it was Avery Powell. Unfortunately, again, we've not taught our kids very well, you know, not to fake injuries. He rolls off the field instead of going down on the field so we can sub. And so now we're sprinting a guy on the field, and then two plays later, you know, he gets beat on a touch because he's just a little bit out of position, you know, on the go ball at the sideline. So, yeah, I mean, we had to play at a pretty high level to have a chance to beat these guys. I think they're a really good football team, and with our current, you know, availability, it was going to be hard unless we played better.
With Evan though specifically, what did he say he was going to take a deep dive into the film? How has he kind of adjusted or adapted since then? What did you see?
Well, and I thought I had such a great question afterwards about like worrying about Evan. It's like, Evan's the last person in the world I'm ever going to worry about. And that's just a testament to the kid. I mean, you talk about a guy who, like, he has the pulse of this team. He has the pulse of this building. You know, he's very introspective, you know, just like the head coach taking responsibility for, you know, what happened on that fake punt. I mean, he's like that guy who has no problem looking in the mirror and saying, I can do better. So, yeah, I mean, you know, today really, probably more than most, was really more like, okay, we got to take a peek at it, but we need to get on to West Point, you know. So I don't know if we took as deep a dive as we normally would, knowing that we do have a get better week the next week. And that's what I remember texting Brian Smith Saturday night saying, hey, listen, like, go through the hot spots, you know, but let's move on quickly and get to Army right now because we're going to need to. And we do have a week coming up that we can kind of go back and say, hey guys, we have to get these couple things fixed because we're going to be playing, you know, a wide open, up-tempo, no-huddle team in North Texas, you know, at the end of the season, which I know a little bit about them because you know, I played Eric when I was at Sam Houston. He was in Carter Ward. He's a phenomenal football coach and a phenomenal play caller. So.
You know, even before the injuries, Devontae Ward-Grant, he went down to Charlotte and played a lot.
Yep.
Now into the last 3 weeks,
Yep.
He's played a lot. He's got some guys a year older than him, who
Yep.
he's, I guess, pushing now real
Yeah,
hard.
you know what? It's that mentality. You can't teach it. You can't coach it. It's like the first play against Charlotte, his eyes are in the wrong spot, and they run a crossing route, and he's chasing him down and finally tackles him for like a 10-yard gain. He didn't blink. He wasn't like all beside himself. He realizes, like, I gotta go play the next play. You know, like I told the two corners, you know, after the Tulsa game, I said, you can't put 100 pounds on tomorrow, so you can't play D-line. Those guys rarely ever get seen in there unless they're getting a sack or whatever. You play in front of God in the world. Everyone sees, and you're gonna get beat. And you just gotta shake it off, go to the next play. He's that mentality. He's that just like, I'm good, let's go play. And so, yeah, no, I mean, he's quickly moved up the ladder. And right now, like, we're determining, like, he has 2 more games that he can play. And then, you know, the great thing is we get bowl eligible, the bowls don't count. So with 3 games left, we have to decide which one game he will not play. I told our guys, have him ready to go this week. If we need him, we'll play him. If we don't need him, then that can be the game. Because again, you're not playing a team that's gonna wing the ball all over the field. You know, you almost rather keep him for, you know, Tulane and North Texas. So yeah, that's gonna be one of those where he'll be ready to go this week, but we're gonna try to do everything in our power not to play him. And if we can do that, it gets another year for him. Some of those young guys, boy, you have to make those tough decisions. That's why the NCAA just has to make it 5 straight years. You get 5 years of eligibility. There's no appeals, there's no nothing. It just would make it so smart for everybody. It takes them 5 years to get through college anyway. And I know I proposed this back in like 2005. And I remember it was this like, well, wait a minute, how about all the records? And well, now with COVID, those records are out, you know, there's no more like standard 4 years of playing anymore. So it only makes sense to give these kids 5 years. I know our conference, as a coaching group, when we were on our Zoom here recently, they're all very passionate about like, we gotta get this fixed, because it's not fair to the guys who have gotten extra years, and now you're not gonna give these guys an extra year. Let's just make it 5, and there's no appeals, there's no, considerations. The other thing that's happening too, and we dealt with it a little bit, but I know some schools dealt with it a lot. A lot of guys are coming in after the 4th game going, I'm playing really well. I don't think I'm gonna play after this. I'm gonna go somewhere else. Hey, I banked 4 games. I played well. I can make more money somewhere else. It's gonna kill our profession. It's gonna kill the continuity of what we do. You can't put that on, kids who have a bunch of people in their ear, and you can't put that on coaches to try to navigate that. Just give them the 5 years, and it makes all the sense in the world.
That just got pretty much shot down for this year though, I see.
So what I understand is they have a January meeting, and same thing happened before. And I think the Pavia rule hasn't been adjudicated yet. Big word, Rich told me, use adjudicated. You gonna use that in the article, adjudicated? All right, thank you. I mean, I learned it, I might as well use it. But the trial, the case hasn't been adjudicated, so there's a good chance they'll just extend it another year. Like, how are you making the rule for these guys? There's been no ruling, and you're not gonna give the next guys that. And the other thing is that because the NCAA doesn't all meet together until January, that's when we'll find out. This is more than just a football legislation. That's the problem. This is an NCAA, all sports. They're not gonna let football have 5 years, and volleyball and basketball and field hockey and lacrosse aren't gonna have 5 years. So everyone's gonna have to have 5 years. So that's why that's gonna have to happen in January. And we told guys like Sekou, guys like that, like, hey, listen, like, we wanna have you back, but you have to play like this is your last year. And then in January, if we figure out like this is a go, then we'll find a way to make this all work. So yeah, there's some moving parts, but I think there's gonna be more decision making that's gonna happen in January, just because how the calendar works out in terms of the NCAA when they meet. So
do you get a sense of like any more optimism that it will get figured out in January, or is it
no, I mean, I think it's one of those like, the common sense thing, but we have no common sense going on right now. It's just, and you would think that when you gave those guys the extra year, why don't you give the guys that are in school right now the extra year? Especially since the Pavia case hasn't been adjudicated, using it again, adjudicated properly or sufficiently. So like, how are we making the rule for these guys because it's not been adjudicated? I'm fixated with that word now. And these guys here, we're gonna say, nah, you know what? you guys don't get that break. I just don't know how you do that. So I think it's gonna be a combination of, okay, if it doesn't get fixed, then someone's gonna put a lawsuit in and say, hey, it's not fixed yet. Like, how are you letting those guys from the year before go and not us? And then the second part, I think there's such a passionate push by the coaches, and I can't imagine all coaches wouldn't want this. And it's our call if we want to take a guy for a 5th year. And you don't have to take him for a 5th year if you graduate him. So it's like a win-win for everybody. It just makes too much common sense, and that's what scares me. We're dealing with the NCAA.
And speaking of common sense, it's been a week late here, but you're at least temporarily became the winningest coach at the FBS level because of sort of.
My guys had a graphic as soon as or Brian Kelly was let go at LSU. They were like, I'm like, poof, the coach didn't die. He got fired. I'm like, okay. And I saw it out there. I'm like, do we really want to put that out there? But no, I've done this a long time. I told the players, I've done this a long time. I've been blessed to have great coaching staffs. I've got one here. I've had a lot of really great players. I got a lot of them right here. And it was nice because I got a lot of text messages from, former players and stuff. They saw that, former coaches and stuff. So anyway, Dan Lanning reached out and, hey, congratulations on being the. So it was nice to get some love.
But around the flip side, like this profession has turned into like the NFL or right?
Yeah. I still love the interaction with the kids. I just love that part of it. And you have to adapt or you perish. And that's why, like I said, I don't know if I take this job if I didn't bring Clayton Barnes with me, because he takes all that off my plate. He's putting together the roster right now. We had a big recruiting weekend this weekend, for JC kids. He handles all those things and he figures out how we're going to put this roster together. I'm involved with all that, but it is it's very NFL like salary capish in terms of how we look at players now, in terms of what their value is, and it's changed dramatically, and I'm learning to change with it.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thanks, guys.